Good morning or good afternoon in Asia, ladies and gentlemen, and our distinguished speakers for today. Welcome to our webinar entitled Unleashing Network Capabilities with 5G-Advanced in Asia. My name is Tony Eid. I'm the CEO and founder of Telecom Review Group. Telecom Review Group is among the largest ICT media platform and event in the world, with our editions covering Asia Pacific, Americas, Middle East, Africa, and Europe. I'm very glad to have all of you with us today. Now it's my pleasure to hand over the webinar to our moderator for today, David Turrington, Head of Technology of GSMA for APAC region. It's yours, David. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tony. Good afternoon and good morning for everyone else. Welcome to this webinar. We're going to have a chat about the abilities and capabilities of advanced 5G and what it means to the Asian operators. So I have with me four important individuals from the industry and the region. And if I get you all to introduce yourselves. So for example, Norden first, if you go ahead.
Sure. Thanks, David. Thanks, Tony, as well, for having me today. I'm Hisham, responsible for mobile and wireless in TM1, which is the enterprise arm of Telecom Malaysia. A couple of years back, we pioneered the first ever private 5G in Malaysia with the oil and gas industry. Back to you, David.
Okay. Fadli, you were at Telecomcell. Tell us about that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, David. Thank you, Tony, for having me in this webinar. My name is Fadli. I'm responsible for the enterprise customer solution for the Telecomcell. Yes, we are also very aggressively to talk about this 5G, and we are on this time to push more and more the 5G deployment in the enterprise. We have also several experience in the mining industry and also in the manufacturing. Thanks.
Okay. And hi to tell us about your role at in Singtel and what they're up to on 5G Advanced.
Hi everyone. Good afternoon, good morning. I'm Haitu, and I'm the VP for mobile network in Singtel. Primarily responsible for the rollout of our mobile network, whether it's LTE or 5G. We have completed the rollout of 5G in July of 2022, and that's 5 years ahead of that's 3 years ahead of our original schedule. And we are in the process of driving adoptions both across the consumer and enterprise, and happy to share more about 5G and 5G Advanced and their roles in 5G in Singapore and its economy.
Okay, thanks. Shansel, how's it going for Telenor? You're also in Singapore?
Yes, thank you, David, and good afternoon, everyone from Singapore. I'm Shibli, heading Asia Technology Head for Telenor. As you all know, that Telenor has two business area. One is Nordic, focusing in the Nordic area, and we have Asia, which we are running from Singapore. We have 4 markets in Asia now operating: Thailand, Malaysia, Bangladesh, and Pakistan. Thailand and Malaysia, yes, 5G, we are quite advanced, especially Thailand. We have already doing a lot of 5G, 5.5G use cases, especially on enterprise and other areas. Bangladesh and Pakistan, we have done some testing on 5G, but commercially not yet launched. And happy to be discuss into this webinar and learn from everyone. Thank you all.
Okay, great. Sorry for mistaking everybody's names. I'm just using what's on the screen. Just for the audience, I'm David Turkington. I'm head of technology for GSMA. I've been in the region for some 30 years, but my career's 10 years before that in the UK and the US. So, you know, we've got a set of questions here, so I'll pass around for the different speakers to maybe contribute to. So the first question really is, can you provide an overview of your company's journey in 5G development and the key initiatives that to transition towards 5G Advanced? So maybe if I start with you, Fadli.
Yeah, thank you, David. So, if we talk about the Telkomsel 5G journey in Indonesia, we are start to have this initial the 5G demo on the May 2017. So we are start to have several activity on that portion, and continuously on the August and September 2018, if I'm not wrong, we are start to have the Asian Games in Indonesia, and we are try to do some trial of the 5G experience on that event. And of course, with the support of the government, and we try to do some giving the 5G experience to the people on that Asian Games in 2018 in Indonesia. So we are trying to showcasing the VR for the driving, VR for the football, and also some of the 5G autonomous vehicle at the time. And continuously on November 2019, we are start to have some focus on the piloting with the industry in Batam, one of the industrial area in Indonesia. And we are focused on the enterprise side on that portion. And we discuss about several use cases of the 5G on the immersive collaboration with the VR, and also the smart surveillance on the use cases in the industry, and also the 5G video conference at the time. And we continue the next journey of a 5G for Telkomsel on the December 2019 on the next Dev Summit in Jakarta. And again, we do some trial piloting the use cases of the video surveillance, the smart agriculture, and we look also on several targeted of the growth of vertical industry in Indonesia. And on May 2021 is our first officially launched the 5G for Telkomsel, and we are start to open for the consumer target market on several area in Indonesia, on Balikpapan, on the Medan, Bandung, Bali, Makassar, and Surabaya. It's a main state of in Indonesia. And also we are trying to discuss more and more on the enterprises customers, and we focus on the vertical industry, mining, manufacturing, and agriculture. So now we are focused a lot on the mining and the manufacturing industry to push this 5G journey for Telkomsel. Thanks, David.
Okay. Hi, too. What do you find Singtel has done about the 5G development story, the journey towards 5G Advanced?
Yes, our journey has begun as early as 2000, when the regulator in Singapore issued 2 5G licenses to Singtel and license to another to our M1 and StarHub, which is our competition, to roll out a joint network. And we have completed the rollout, like what I said earlier, 3 years ahead of time. By July 22, we have the nation fully covered with 5G. And that is just the foundation. It's really laying the foundation where you have 5G everywhere in Singapore. And in fact, that was also post-COVID. I remember September 22, that was Formula One Singapore. That was the first international event after a long lockdown for a good 2 to 3 years. So, and in fact, that was the time where we piloted and we pioneered and piloted network slicing, where we segregate part of the network for a major event like Formula One Singapore, where there is a lot of concurrent user and streaming high quality videos of the F1 race. And there's no other occasion than deploying network slicing to give us a glimpse of what is to come, something that is truly unique to 5G. Because for the first time in the history of mobile telephony, you are able to segregate the air interface for a specific group of user or even application. So that was something that that Singtel put up as a 5G use case, something that is first in the world that we pioneered. And in fact, we have been doubling down on this journey. And in 2023, we have also launched security as a slice, where we create another segregated part of the network for heightened security capabilities on top of already the more secure 5G. And MWC in 2024, just February this year, we actually have gone one step further by launching URSP and application detection. This is another level of network slicing, where instead of you segregate the network by user, we actually are able now to take one step further and segregate application by slice by applications. And that allows one user to have multiple slices depending on what applications you are trying to guarantee the performance or security. And yeah, this has been the exciting journey. And we, as we look forward to 5G-Advanced, and I think there are many features or many performance enhancement that will only make it more conducive for the use of network slicing, which we believe will be one of the key use cases of 5G.
That's very interesting. The use cases of slicing. This is something I've talked about as well, but this was before anyone had really used it. So it sounds like well, Formula One racing is certainly a tough trial and an interesting one for everybody involved, I'm sure. So perhaps you can tell us more about that later. So Hisham, what's your experience in the journey towards 5G Advanced?
Sure. I mean, to start with, back in 2019 late or 2020 early, the industry was advocating 5G by doing some demo projects collectively in Langkawi. Moving fast forward from that, at a later stage, government then decided to create a single purpose vehicle, special purpose vehicle SPV called DMB, to be the single wholesale network provider for Malaysia, meaning that DMB will deploy radio access network 5G and will be connected to all the mobile operator core network, in short, MOCN, if anyone aware about that technology. Okay, so today DMB has deployed more than 80% COPA or coverage of a populated area in Malaysia. And then government deciding also to go for the next second network, basically from single wholesale network to become dual network per se, to have a proper redundancy for the country. So that is being discussed, due diligence is happening. So all the mobile operator basically on board, and then sitting in a forum to discuss the transition from single wholesale network towards dual network. Okay, but in parallel, I think what is more meaningful to us in enterprise business, we have deployed the first private 5G sites for Petronas, which is the oil and gas sector industry in Malaysia. And to date, we have deployed 4 sites basically. And the idea for Petronas to embark on this private 5G is one step towards remote and autonomous operation for their refineries as well as offshore sites. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think the benefit over cost for this what you call approach is quite clear. I mean, 2 prongs basically. Number one is about cost saving, obviously, when you reduce the manpower. And number two is about reducing the manpower to work at a very hazardous zones like oil and gas. I think those are the two reasons why Petronas embarked on this private 5G. And obviously, as I said, I mean, today, the whole country, for the public usage, for example, or for the public network, the whole country is populated by DNB radio access network of 5G. And obviously, there's a plan for 5.5G. I think the single supplier for this network throughout the country is Ericsson, and DNB has signed some, if it's not an agreement, some sort of MOU also with Ericsson back in Barcelona in February to go towards 5.5G. Yeah, back to you, David.
Okay, that's really interesting, especially about the private networks for Petronas. Especially, I can understand, you know, the safety issues and so on, and this will be very key. I'd like to come back to that because I think it's a very interesting topic. Shibli, what's your experience with 5G Advanced, the journey towards, because you're unique here on this panel, you know, representing more than one country or what?
I think, David, let me be very honest and bold here. I think 5G is still receiving a cool reception in enterprise. Because as everybody is mentioning, 2019-20, yes, we have started journey in 20. And in last 4 years, definitely 5G has taken around 1.6 billion sub-base in whole world connectivity, compared to 4G took almost 9 years. But when it is coming to this enterprise, which we have been very vocal for last 2-3 years in different forums and different market, we have not seen that kind of enterprise success. Yes, we have still working on all the areas, just like our friends are mentioning, from port, from security, from telco industry, we are supporting to this manufacturing, mining. So we are trying to be exploring those all opportunities, but still it is not up to that level which we tried with this 5G. So I think this is something we need to push ourselves in next couple of years so that we can get success on this enterprise area. And as most of the discussion coming from Singapore and Malaysia, I can highlight about Thailand, where we have almost 80% pop coverage for last couple of years from our operator True. And also we are working with this enterprise, and you have seen a lot of activities going on, especially on the security, healthcare, manufacturing. But that's not yet up to the mark we have expected a couple of years back. So it's still a starting journey for us on 5G, and we are also advancing on this 5.5G, which may give advanced support. As I'm in Telenor, we are also following the Nordic. In DNA means Finland, Telenor Finland, we say DNA. There we have already tried with this 5.5G or advanced 5G to get this 10 times speed and connectivity, and also connecting with the 10 times IoT systems and devices. But it started only, as I mentioned, and we'll take this experience from Nordic to Asia very soon. Thank you, David.
Thanks. I think you bring up a really interesting point. You know, is 5G a solution looking for a problem? Coming from, we're all from the telecom field, and I feel, you know, we sometimes think that we should insert it in everywhere, that might not necessarily be the right thing to do. But certainly, the way I look at it is, you know, it allows you to do things you couldn't even do before. And of course, if you couldn't do them before, you didn't imagine to use the solution. So I think it's up to the operators and everyone to sort of come together and come up with solutions or use cases that, you know, simply weren't possible before because never thought of because of that reason. But so going on to the next thing, maybe Shibli, you can come back on this one. You know, what are the key features of 5G Advanced, you know, and how do they differ from 4G?
To be honest, first of all, we have started working on this enterprise solution with the 4G. As I mentioned earlier, that even IoT, even if you go any kind of solutions, we are talking about 5G today, that also can be possible with 4G. So we have started at least 4 or 5 years back with all this kind of solution or enterprise solution with the 4G initially, and then now we are moving to the 5G. And also we are stepping onto 5.5G where needed. But on to the level, as I mentioned, the capability or our technology capability here, we also need to focus about the business enterprise, and then definitely our shareholders' interest, how we can monetize those things. So currently we are focusing on this artificial intelligence or AI. Definitely we are driving this AI first telco, which is our very core in our any strategy, company strategy. And then also machine learning or LLM, we are focusing on these things. And we are trying to work closely with our enterprise customer base about their pain point, challenges, as I mentioned, like manufacturing or some mining, port authority. So we are trying to understand their pain point and try to solve their issues through this 5G and 5G Advanced. So it is not mandatory that we have to jump onto 5G Advanced immediately, but definitely this is a path we have to follow. And in a couple of years, we'll be matured enough to drive that one to get this 10x support for our customer or enterprise. So we are in a journey, David.
All right, thanks. Because you bring up a good point, you know, like looking for the solutions, and again, the technology wasn't there before to implement something. So maybe Fadli, you know, what's your experience? You know, how do they differ from 4G and 5G?
Yeah, I think I'm agree with Shibli just now is mentioning about this focus of the business enterprise itself, David, and all the audience, because it's we are come from the 4G use cases previously, and once we are entering the enterprise as customers targeted, and we look on their pain point. For example, when we are working with the mining industry, we are have an experience to build piloting the 5G for Freeport on the underground 5G for their remote vehicle, for example. And we look on that and we see that they are really needed of the 5G use cases on that point to solve their problem. So that's how we are seeing that the 5G can drive the business itself. And when we talk about this technology advancement that coming to the enhance the device experience and also the unlock the network efficiency, the new system capability. And if we are, let's say, if we are focused on the comparing the traditional 4G, 5G with the 5G advanced, and we know that it will be more and more to enhance the radio performance to be the new level. And when we look on the use cases itself, talking about the extended reality and all these promising opportunity normally on the each segment, they have the each different use cases. And if we look on that, I think it's really something that is a part of the journey for each country. And if we talk about Indonesia itself, now in the country, we are really focused on the vertical, on the mining, because mining is a growth a lot in Indonesia. So, and it's a part of the opportunity again to look on the beneficial of the difference from the traditional 4G, 5G to the 5G advanced. We're talking about the broadband evolution, that we need to improve the capacity and the speed and the capability itself of the network deployment. And we talk about the IoT advancement and expansion, that we know that from the this capability for the IoT devices efficiency from the low tier and the mid tier for the IoT device and services. I think this is something that we are trusted, like what Shibli mentioning. At the end of the day, the business enterprise itself will be pushing a lot to use this 5G capability. Yeah, David, thanks.
Okay. Hi, True. You know, how about you? What do you see the difference between 4G and 5G? You know, networks, and how's 5G advanced improve that?
Yeah, maybe I will break down the topic into two parts: the difference between 4G and 5G, and then what is the difference between 5G and 5G advanced. On the difference between 4G and 5G, I thought it's something that I have brought out initially about one of the key unique value proposition of 5G, apart from the higher bandwidth, the low latency, the ability to connect to lots of devices, the high density, is the ability to segregate the network through network slicing. And that really is a significant development. That is something that for the first time in the history of mobile telephony technology, that we are able to segregate the air interface, and that's critical and important for enterprise, for the CXO, the CTO, the CIO, to go in front of the boardroom, not just to say that they are running their mission critical operation on the best effort, but on the guaranteed quality of service. And as I speak to a lot of enterprise executive, I realize that what they need is not extreme high bandwidth or even latency performance. In fact, you see the Port of Singapore Authority, PSA, which is one of the busiest ports in the world, who have hundreds or coming to thousands of AGV that runs around the port. The bandwidth consumption is not significant compared to a lot of other video applications. But what is important is the consistent performance wherever they are at whichever corner of the port. And the guaranteed quality of service is what matters to them. They have to keep the AGVs running so that the port runs 24/7. And I thought this is one of the key value proposition of 5G, and that differentiate 5G significantly away from 4G, because you are now able to start to layer port operation, air traffic operations, national security, and various mission critical operation of 5G. Now, having have a good grasp of 5G enterprise in Singapore, we are looking at 5G-Advanced in an exciting way, because we do know that in order for you to segregate the network, you need to have a good and healthy network. And there are certain emphases, there are certain still some of the shortfall and lacking in current 5G, for example, in terms of the uplink speed is something that many of the enterprise has higher demand on. So there's also enhanced coverage and MIMO performance. These are all good enhancement to complement what is already working in 5G network slicing. And of course, there are many enterprise has the net carbon zero ambitions. In fact, Singtel has brought forward its net carbon zero neutrality from 2050 to 2045. And some of the AI ML deployment in 5G-Advanced that enable cell sleep and carrier selections are able to help service provider like us to achieve this sustainability goal in advance.
All right, thanks. You made a good point. Uplink speed. I sort of have this comment, half joke, because everybody forgets about the uplink, and finally in 5G-Advanced, it's got some attention and has improved greatly. And I think that's always a good thing, because the nature of the traffic is changing. It's not all just consumer to mobile, it's the other way around, especially in these industrial applications where you're transmitting video and so on. So maybe moving on to the next question, what network and technical requirements are needed to transition to from 5G to 5G-Advanced? Maybe Hisham, how do you think that works?
Sure. Obviously, I mean, the main resource needed for 5.5G, definitely, additional set of frequency and the capability of, for example, some sort of like carrier aggregation or merger of a C-band and upper higher band or different band from C-band to ensure the higher throughput uplink and downlink, as you mentioned just now. So definitely on the radio part, there will be some investment there. And obviously, you need to migrate from current release to, for example, 17 to 18 3GPP Release 18 to do that. And yes, I think I totally agree with Haitu in regards to network slicing. We are basically anticipate the same in Malaysia as well. The only challenge that we have here, we are having this single hosted network deploying the RAN of one vendor, and the core cannot be probably not the same vendor as the RAN vendor today. And I think that's the challenge that we are facing here in Malaysia to really orchestrate, you know, network slicing over multi-vendor. I think that's the challenge. I believe in Singtel, they have you know, end-to-end core and radio from a single vendor, I presume, if I can confirm that, right? Yeah, so obviously spectrum, I think is an important play apart from others. Others are controllable. I mean something that the operator can control in terms of investment towards 5.5G, as I said, on the radio or on migration or upgrading the network from one release to the next release that cover 5.5G. And I think to add a bit on the previous speaker was saying just now, I think apart from green energy savings and so on and so forth, I think 5.5G also offering, you know, native intelligence for the network itself. We've been talking about self-organizing network and so on and so forth before in LTE, but I think, you know, native intelligence in 5G will come, in 5.5G will come to play, and then that will bring, you know, the network becoming more and more resilient and as well as reliable per se. And I think one of the things that we are looking forward as well for 5.5G is about passive IoT, whereby you can do a lot of it by using, I think it's going to get more reliable. Take example, tracking, for example, in a very hazardous zones, for the workers to go in, you know, I mean, instead of having an active devices with them, I think having a passive IoT will be more reliable as well as, you know, cost effective per se. And I think that is one of the what 5.5G can bring per se. And obviously, as Haitu touched upon a green energy, I think everybody's talking about it. And we can do more in 5.5G per se. Yeah.
Yeah,
Back to you,
thanks.
David.
Well, going back to Haitu sort of briefly, is like what's needed to upgrade from 5G to 5G-Advanced, because I understand Singtel went sort of SA standalone network sort of from our early stage. Or maybe tell us about that.
Yes, in fact, I must credit the Singapore regulator, the IMDA, for setting a very good framework in terms of imposing the need for the 5G standalone network on the on-start itself. And I think that sets the foundations for 5G and the many use cases. Well, technically, I don't see much hurdle for service provider to move from 5G to 5G-Advanced. I think it's quite a natural evolution. I think like some of the speaker has reflected, I think it's really about, you know, adoption. I think if there's a demand, there will be a supply. I think that will be the push. I think much investment has been made on 5G. We have made our hypothesis in terms of high bandwidth, low latency. I think we didn't quite see the new application that demands that, but we see the light at the end of the tunnel from enterprise having get the demand for guaranteed quality of service, and therefore therefore the need for network slicing. So and like what I said, many features that is available in terms of in 5G-Advanced, like enhancement in AR/VR, in terms of performance in MIMO, in terms of rate cap and support for passive IoT, accurate positionings, and network efficiencies through AI, ML. I think these are all enhancement that will facilitate new use cases. And I think this is where we need to, as service provider, we need to watch very carefully to make sure that we tailor all this enhancement according to use case and not looking for a problem after rolling out a solution.
Yes, indeed. I realize we're sort of going through the questions slowly, so maybe if I just jump to the next question, what are successful 5G advanced deployments in Asia, as well as the challenges that are going to be faced? Maybe Fadli, if you tell us, what do you think the challenges are going to be?
Yes, David, thanks. Yes, I think it's yeah, like what we heard from the older speaker just now. I think it's bringing a lot of experience and also the journey. And I think it's if we look on that and based on our experience here to have some piloting, doing some of commercial project of the 5G itself. We look on we still have some key challenge that we need to focus on. The first is about the the device, the ecosystem maturity for the device supporting the 5G advanced technology itself. So that's one of the point also we talk a lot and we discuss a lot with an ecosystem of the network and the device in Indonesia, and also the application itself. I think is we believe that like what our colleague just now is mentioning about the use cases. So the most of the driving of the aspect itself is the use case. So we are in Indonesia, if I can repeat again, we are focused a lot on the vertical enterprise, the vertical industry. Why? Because in Indonesia, the manufacturing is contribute 16% to 20% of the GDP, and the mining itself also it's contribute almost 12% of the GDP of the country. So and what we try to look and what are the point that we try to push a lot is about the application of the 5G itself, the use cases. So we try to giving the awareness to them and also talking about the where is the potential, the use cases, looking from the beneficial from the 5G itself, like our colleague mentioning about the low latency, slicing, all these kind of things. And yeah, I believe this is the key challenge that we need to push more. The challenge of the operator to because we need to invest and we need to put the sufficiently in the new network technology. So these kind of the things that we try to see and solve together on the enterprise ecosystem, David.
Thanks. I just see we got a question asking pretty much what you just answered. What's the service provider need to increase the 5G adoption? And I think you said it all. We need the ecosystem, we need the devices, the network applications, and use cases. There's no silver bullet. There's no one single answer. There's going to be lots of things that need to be aligned for this to work. So maybe. So I'll say that's answered. You did a great job. So Hai2, what 5G advanced applications do you see? You mentioned the network slicing for the Formula One. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Okay. I think first, in the telephony network across the world has experienced high adoption, which is really the growth in terms of adoption. And we have, in many countries, we have more than 100% penetration, and that very much have achieved the economy of scale. I think what 5G bring about and 5G network slicing bring about is beyond economy of scale, it bring in economy of scope. Now, meaning now that you can do a lot more, not just having more people to use the network, but you are able to do a lot more on the network itself. And there used to be a saying that you can't be everything to be for everyone. But I think in 5G network slicing is precisely what you can do. You can actually tailor different part of the network to cater for different group of user, different segment of user, or different enterprise use case, or different government agencies use case. And I think F1 2022 was a case where we segregate a part of the network, launch our own F1 video streaming service, and allow people in the circuit to have a view of the entire race. While, usually when you go to an F1 race, you are fixed at one spot and you don't know what's going on in the other part of the race. And you do have big screen in some of the spot, but it's not necessary everywhere. But having a streaming app with guaranteed high resolution performance allow you to enjoy the atmosphere on the spot, but at the same time have a view about what is going on in the entire race. And that is the one of the first consumer use case. And more recently, we have the likes of Taylor Swift, Bruno Mars coming to Singapore to host their concert. And these concerts are packed with 60, 70,000 people. And you find that there is a specific golden time, just 5 minutes before the concert and 5 minutes after the concert, where the traffic is extremely high. People are uploading their picture, video, downloading the song lyrics, very intense during that period. And there's no way that you can design a network to cater for everyone for that instant. That would not be sustainable. That would not be viable, economically viable. And that's where we actually roll out a concert pass for such an event where people who are willing, the willingness to pay for the extra bandwidth are able to subscribe to again another network enhanced slice with enhanced bandwidth. And we have received good receptions about such a service, and we are looking at other opportunity to roll out such a use cases through network slicing like travel pass, event pass, and etc.
That's great. I certainly feel your point about Formula One. The car passes in 2 seconds, and you're missing the whole race. And then later on, where's your driver? He didn't come by. You don't know what happened. So that's a very good application of it, and certainly one that I'm sure you can charge for. So maybe moving on to the next question, what industry-specific use cases can be enhanced by 5G or 5G enhanced technology, 5G advanced technology, and how this works in for economic growth and innovation in Asia? Maybe Shibli, if I ask you first, again, being uniquely positioned here.
No, I think first of all that this whole ecosystem is evolving very fast. In this area, is not only the telco, we have to work with the hyperscaler and then how industries are moving into that direction. When I'm highlighting these things, it's mainly coming to this AR, VR. That all this Meta, Google, everyone is now working on this AR and VR. And these solutions or these services, how we as an CSP, the service provider, can take it to the customer, that's very important for us. I think that's where we have to work on this 5G Advanced, and maybe we'll move to 6G very soon due to these things. So I think this AR and VR part is very important for future, and that's everybody is now focusing. Yes, it is not yet mature, but this metaverse is coming soon. So we cannot fall apart on this part. Beside that, I think we have already discussed a lot about the network slicing. I think these are just maturing. And as Haithu is highlighting, I think this is a very unique proposition which allow provider to do more slicing, get the revenue from that part, which allow them to invest more on these areas. So I think this is a couple of areas we are focusing from our side, and also closely working with the hyperscaler also to understand how they are moving fast on this area and where we can add value so that our customers can get better, not only download, uplink speed, IoT connectivity, and this 10x proposition from 5G Advanced is driving towards that direction so that we can accommodate AR and VR very fast. So this is how I'm thinking, David.
Okay. Yeah, that's certainly a big application, and I think whenever the big guys are going for it, then we have to build the networks in order to accommodate it. And again, as mentioned earlier, the uplink matters more in this case because you have cameras now at the user end more than before. Maybe Hisham, what do you think? What's going to be enhanced, particularly by 5G Advanced, and where the economic growth you're going to see is going to come from?
Sure. be it 5G or 5G Advanced, I think when a customer or the user decided to embark on 5G, especially if you talk about private network, I mean, obviously, network slicing, based on network slicing, you can have a better positioning in terms of cost and so on and so forth. But if you talk about private network or private 5G network per se, the cost is quite huge. And before you even embark into that thoughts, you need to have a very clear cost benefit analysis done. And I think that one of the clear benefit of a cost ratio that we have seen is exists in a few verticals. One is oil and gas, definitely. Two is ports, and maybe later at later stage on manufacturing. Manufacturing, I would say, exists in between network slicing as well as private network. But when it comes to oil and gas, obviously, I mean, these are the places whereby public network never reach. And obviously you have to bring private network there. And obviously the benefit of a cost is very clear there. If you imagine that you reduce the number of workers on board. And to do that, definitely you need to go for 5G, and 5G will have a loss also. I mean, this is for the reason, as you mentioned, David, the uplink for videos, what you call streaming videos to the clouds or to the command center, for example, which is very critical. If you imagine hundreds of cameras, for example, be it fixed camera or robot is carrying cameras, everything is basically using the uplink bandwidth going up to the server. And for that, obviously, you cannot use LTE, definitely. And of course, Wi-Fi also won't do the job. I mean, due to the fact that Wi-Fi is very, unreliable technology per se. So I think that is where it's supposed to be picked up, especially, as I said, if you talk about private 5G. And obviously ports, as Haitu also mentioned, I mean, you're going to have lots of uplink there. I mean, due to a remote autonomous operation as well. I mean, that you need a very good, and reliable visibility remotely at command center, for example, to control all the cranes, AGVs, and so on and so forth. So I think that's another industry will pick up quickly when it comes to if you talk about 5G as well as 5G Advanced. And obviously, when 5G Advanced come in, it will help a lot. I mean, of course, everything's timestamp. That's the promise that we have seen, coming from the technology partner. So I think that is where the two verticals, will pick up in terms of 5G and 5G moving forward. David.
Yes, indeed. Exactly. Having worked with ports and airports before, and not mining yet, but I know exactly the challenges that Fadi as well is related to. Is like you're trying to keep people out of the danger zones, and maybe you can monitor these with cameras and then have machine learning to identify safety risks and so on. But of course, the efficiency gains of having one person maybe operating multiple machines, but in a safe location, is a great idea. So maybe Fadli, you mentioned mining before. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So I think, David, I would like to add in some point that what we've done in Indonesia. I think this is a good point also to share that what is the point I would like to share here is to support the economic growth of the country by the 5G as one of the enablers. So we are rely and align the program of the deployment of Industry 4.0 in Indonesia. So Indonesia have one program what they call the Making Indonesia 4.0, and we try to push the deploying the technology, the advanced technology, the key technology of Industry 4.0, the AI, the IoT, the extended reality, VR and AR, and etc. on the segment of the industry, manufacturing, mining, and several of the area. So the one of the use cases that we try to do is we create and we collaborate with one of the warehouse logistic industry, and we make the showcase of the innovation, the use cases. This is the real use case. the real industry customer. And now in Telkomsel, we open this area as a showcase that all the industry in the country, they can come and visit this logistic industry use cases for the 5G. And over there, we put the connected machine, sensor, the autonomous mobile robot, the video analytics, and etc. I think this is also the way how in the country Telkomsel supporting the economic growth by enabling the use cases of the 5G itself. So always people in enterprise saying about the seeing is believing. So once I think like what Haitu mentioning, they need to know. They need to know what is the pain point. They need to know what is the benefit of them. They need to know what is the return of investment to invest this 5G. Like Isham also mentioning about the investment in the some segment. They are also like to see the beneficial and talk with the users. So that's what we try to do. So we have two use cases in Indonesia in Telkomsel, one in the logistic industry, and we open this for the enterprise customer if they want to look and see what happening and what is the use cases, what is the benefit, and etc. And also in the real use cases on the automotive industry, which is it's adopted by one of the biggest multinational company from Japanese in Indonesia. I think this is a real things that what we think it will be supporting, accelerating the adoption of the 5G, and also supporting, accelerating the economic growth by enabling the 5G on the enterprise customer especially. And if you talk about the mining, yes, we have an experience to build the underground remote vehicle on the end of 2022 in the Freeport at the time. And now by the segment itself, I think it will be almost the same journey with another country, like what our colleague mentioning about the smart port and smart industrial area and etc. We are also have a lot of discussion, a lot of preparation for the piloting private network 5G for the smart port and also the smart industrial area, which is something that growth a lot in Indonesia because we are a big, huge country. We have a
Yes.
lot of island, and it's really necessary to have the private network 5G for them also to support
Yeah.
their business.
You made a good point about, having the showcase because, if you're in a factory making stuff, you're not really going to know about 5G, but you don't know the capabilities of it, and a showcase is a great place to start. Maybe moving on to the next question is, what consideration should be made for spectrum allocation? I noticed that Hisham, you mentioned spectrum before, the ability to do carrier aggregation. So maybe, spectrum allocation and regulations. Admittedly, you've got your own challenges in Malaysia, but maybe tell us about that.
Sure, David. I think spot on, David. I think that's one of the challenge that we are facing here. I mean, obviously, to coexist private network and public network, I think it's quite a challenge when you have a spectrum as a scarce resource there. Obviously, everybody is looking at the sweet spot of the spectrum, whereby the mid-band, the C-band, yeah. Obviously, we have 700, but it's quite small there. And of course, it's very useful, but we have also millimeter wave up there. But obviously, millimeter wave in Malaysia, number one, with the rains and vegetation is not that useful for outdoor. And plus on millimeter wave also the issue, I think globally we are facing lacking of ecosystem in terms of devices and user equipment. So everybody is looking at, as I said, the mid-band of the spectrum, which is the C-band. And I think over here it's not 100% settled in terms of, opening up the whole shebang of the spectrum. So we have to live with, a couple of blocks of the spectrum at the moment. And I think it's still quite uncertain from the perspective of that dual network is happening also. So I think that's quite a challenge, and I think in preparation towards 5.5G, I think that will be the one of the key concern as well as key attention need to be looked at here in Malaysia. And obviously it differ from one country to another country, and to achieve this. But then obviously we have to mitigate it somehow, because the demand on private 5G is there, and we cannot wait until everything is settled before we move. So I think that is where we are at today. But I think obviously everybody tried to sit together and resolve the problem, David.
Thanks. Yeah, indeed. A very awkward situation where you've private networks aren't going to be private, or have to share with public somebody else's spectrum and so on. I think is a unique challenge that you have in this group here. Maybe if I ask Shibli the same question, what about spectrum allocation and regulations across the region that you see?
No, I think this is one of the most important part for all of the operators. So spectrum is the most important part and costly part, and also it should be very much, efficiently used. So we always focus on the efficient use of the spectrum, as you mentioned, carrier aggregation and other things. 5G or 5.5G, all the spectrum can be used now. So now it's getting more commodity product, so we can use all the spectrum. But the challenge is that how to be efficient use between the customer and the users pattern. And for this 5.5G advanced, we have seen that also 6 gigahertz can be an opportunity beyond that what Hisham is mentioning, wave. So 6 gigahertz can be an opportunity which we can look into these things with the regulator. But this is one of the area, as I mentioned, that efficiency of spectrum and then refarming based on this efficiency, carrier aggression is the most important for the spectrum, because this is the most costly items and this is most important also. Yes.
Going to high two, how do you find the spectrum usage? Because Singapore is unique, and it's all just city. Sweeping statement to make there, but it nearly is. How do you find this millimeter wave and the use of the other spectrum blocks?
Yeah, I think both Hisham and the rest of the speaker have highlighted the importance of spectrum. Spectrum is actually it's the mobile telephony heartbeat, right? I mean, that's really the foundation. And I think in the case of Singapore, we didn't have the auction for C-band, the 3.5. I think that was a good call by, again, IMDA Singapore, where a call for proposal was in place to roll out the best 5G network. And I think that was the right approach to take, that at the end of the day, it is not about making the service provider paying for the spectrum, but investing in high quality network. Mm-hmm. And I think this is critical. I think with more bands to come, I think the 6 gigahertz is the next block. We know that part of it is maybe allocated to Wi-Fi unlicensed band, but the remaining, there still remain to be opportunity for 5G. And I think the mid band and the low band are very critical band in order for us to build a quality 5G network. Mm-hmm. And like what I said, I think it's important. That is lay the very foundation, whether from consumer use case or the enterprise use case, because today the day-to-day life, the economy of the nation actually very much is influenced by the proliferations of the mobile telephony network and the quality of it. And whether is it the digital payment, digital experience, digital identity in the consumer space, and all the mission critical network all relies on the current LTE network, and more importantly, evolving into 5G. And the spectrum the mid and the low band lay the foundations for quality 5G network to propel the economy.
Okay. Maybe we jump to the last question, really. We've only a couple of minutes to go. Maybe if I ask Shibli first, it's what are the regional partnerships, for deploying 5G Advanced We don't all live on an island.
No. I think the partnership-wise, I think we are quite well equipped with all the major OEM partners. So it's starting from Huawei, ZTE, Ericsson, and Nokia. So in Telenor, we are quite well equipped with this partner, and we are really following this partnership, strong governance with their top management, and in all our market, we are driving together. So this is one of the area which we have driven, and also our operating model, network operating model, is also supporting to collaborate with the partner into this market, where we are getting best support from the Ericsson or Nokia or ZTE or Huawei, who allow us to get this new solution, automated solution, advanced tools to support our network planning and operation. So this is how we are already working with this. And then edge cloud and other cloud, definitely we are partnering with the hyperscaler to put our all application to the cloud platform. So this is how we are working. Thank you, David.
Thank you. I think we're really almost out of time. Maybe Hai2, if you have a one-liner about regional partnerships.
Yeah, I think that like what I say, I think what is the missing ingredient now is really the 5G take-up. I think that's shared across the service provider, and I think across the Singtel group, from AIS in Thailand, Telkomsel in Indonesia, Optus in Australia, Bharti in India, Globe in the Philippines, and then Singtel in Singapore. We are all coming together to share the experience from enterprise to consumer to rural and to city-state use cases. So we do have a variety of environment that we're operating in, and we're joining, sharing, and leading and shaping the market to drive 5G adoption.
So, okay, with that, thank you to the speakers for this very interesting conversation and discussion.